Hero Art's spring release is now available, and I'm here to share some bees, butterflies, and birthdays. Hi everyone, I'm Rebecca Keppel, and in today's video I'll be sharing some stamps, dies, stencils, and foil plates from the latest Hero Art's spring release. Let's take a look at some of these exciting new supplies. First up, we have the Burlap Bold Prints, which is a cling-mounted red rubber background stamp. It's 6x6, and the red rubber stamp gives you a very clean image. So you can either make this very light and airy to add some texture to your background, or you can make it bold, like the name says, to add a really bold background. So when I'm using these 6x6 stamps, I use my original Misty. Since it's cling mounted, that means it has foam on it. So take the foam pad or Misty mouse pad out. And for the first background, I'm just going to completely cover the stamp with some bright colored ink from Hero Arts. This is Cotton Candy. So you can see that you can get a really fun, textured, bold print for the background. Alternatively, you can lightly add some light gray ink to just part of the stamp to give a partial stamping, which is a really very airy texture to that stamp. And you can also stamp and heat emboss with some gold glitter embossing powder from Hero Arts to give a completely different look. And that's the thing that's nice about these background stamps, is that there's lots of ways to use them. You could also do a heat emboss resist and other techniques. This is the Honeycomb hot foil plate. I just wanted to show you what it looks like on an A2 panel. This is the butterfly hot foil plate. Again, just giving you a size reference on that A2 panel. And I'm going to share a few foilings with both of these hot foil plates. So I heat up my Glimmer machine, and while I do that, I tape some foil down to some white smooth cardstock using some pixie tape. This holds the foil in place. I pull out the platform when it's ready, place that foil down onto the plate, and then put my clear plates and shim on top and run it through my die cut machine. And this is the rainbow butterfly that I got. I also created kind of a gold sparkle and a rose gold, which I did on that stamping of the burlap background stamp that we already created with. So for the honeycomb, I'm going to do that same technique where I tape the foil down. I have the silver side of the foil facing the cardstock and the colorful side facing the plate. And then I put my clear plate and my shim on top, and you can see you get some great foiling without a lot of shifting inside your machine because that foil is taped down with that pixie tape. So I did that honeycomb in several colors of foil as well. This way we have some stamped backgrounds and foiled backgrounds when we go to make cards with the rest of the release. I like to do all my foiling at once, all my stamping at once, and then die cutting. This is the Delicate Butterfly Fancy Dies, and the shadow of the large butterfly can cut out that foiled butterfly. This is the Color Layering Bee Florals stencil set. It is a 5 layering stencil set. It's very easy to use. It's very easy to line up, but it creates the most detailed and beautiful image that I would never be able to color on my own. I love the ink blending. This is the Bee Florals Window Fancy Die, which cuts out a window of that layered stencil. This is the Everyday Sentiment Strips. This is one stamp that you stamp all at once, and then if you get the fancy dies from Hero Arts, these were a previous release, they can cut out all of these in sentiment strips in one pass, which I think is a brilliant idea. So let me show you. This is the stamp. It is one big stamp, but it fits inside the mini Misty on an A2 piece of cardstock, which is very handy because that's what a lot of us use every day. So I stamped first in black ink on white cardstock, and then I'm going to treat some Hero Arts black cardstock with anti-static powder tool, and I'm going to stamp the same stamp with Versamark ink, pour some white embossing powder on top, and then heat set that. And then I'm going to put the die on top. Again, it's one die that cuts out all of those sentiment strips. So I'm going to cut out the white with the black stamping, and then I'm going to cut out the black cardstock with white heat embossing on top. And on most strips, there's 2 sentiments. This is the Yay Birthday Bundle. It comes with some really fun stamps, some bold sentiments and fonts, and then a couple of images as well. The dies will cut out both of the cake and the candle and all the large words. This is the spring catalog. If you've never seen a Hero Arts catalog, it is a beautiful publication. It's thick, thick paper and beautiful colors and lots of samples, which I can't show you, but I just want you to know if you want inspiration, this is a great place to get it. Now let's use these new supplies to make some cards. Since I hadn't shared how the color layering Bee Florals stencil works, I wanted to share this first up. So there's a little color combination on the back that I'm going to go with, and it starts with the first stencil and a light yellow ink. The second stencil has a darker yellow ink, and that's creating the flowers and the bodies of the bees. Next up, we're going to start in with some leaves, and it's the first layer of leaves, so I'm using Twisted Citron, which is a light green. The next layer is the detailed layer of the leaves, so I'm using a darker green, which is Mode Lawn Distress Oxide ink. And I am using a foam blender here. You can use anything you love to use to blend on top of these stencils. Finally, the last layer are the bee stripes, their antenna, and a couple of other things, and I'm using black soot for that. So you can see how quickly this image came together with just some ink blending on some cardstock with those stencils. Here's the die that cuts out the window. So you just need to line it up. It's very easy to line up on top of that stenciling. And then you can pop out the window and some of the edges pop up as well. Now I'm going to use some foam tape in a few areas behind there, and I trimmed it down to 4 by 5 1/4 so I can mat it on some light blue cardstock. And I love the look of that shadow window cut out with a little bit of foam tape behind it. I'm going to use one of those sentiment strips, and I'm going to hide each edge behind something, behind the leaves on the left and behind a flower on the right. And it just says, I appreciate you. And I love the black and white there because it really draws out the rest of the image. Finally, I'm going to use some Hero Arts white pearls just as a few accents because I didn't have anything else going on in the window. And I absolutely love how quick and easy this is to create and how beautiful and detailed those stencils really make the image. In fact, I loved it so much, I did another one, and I did a slightly different color combination. Most of the colors are the same, but the yellows are a little bit different, just for a slightly different look. And this time, I am going to mat it on top of the honeycomb foil that we created in gold on white cardstock. I am gonna, again, grab one of those sentiment strips. I have so many of them now, just sitting and waiting to add to cards, and I love that idea. I think it's brilliant. Of course, you could add some colorful stamping to those sentiments as well, but I really love the black with the white heat embossing because it just really stands out. And I'm adding some gold pearls as accents, but you really didn't even need those with that foiling in the center window. For this card, I am going to use the shadow of that large butterfly die to cut out the foiled butterfly. So I'm just going to hold that in place, cut it out, and then I'm going to pop up not the center, but the sort of towards the center on the wings so that I can fold them up a little bit. And then I'm going to put a piece of black foam tape behind a sentiment that says you're the best and place that right on top. And it all goes on that gray stamping with the burlap. For this next card, I'm going to use the small butterfly die, and I kept it attached to the shadow this time. I didn't cut it out, and so I cut both out at the same time, and that creates these beautiful detailed die cuts. So I'm going to add 3 of them to a rainbow honeycomb background, and once again take a piece of black foam tape, cut it in half, and pop up a sentiment strip that says make a wish. This was a really easy card to create, but it has so much fun aspects to it. I absolutely love it. I did add some gold pearls to the center of the butterflies and some white pearls as accents around the honeycomb. And again, just love the rainbow that you can achieve with foiling and then the details you can achieve with those dies. For this butterfly card, I'm going to cut out the gold foiled butterfly. And once I cut the butterfly out, I'm going to cut the detail layer out. So make sure you only see white through the holes of the die, and that cuts out a beautiful gold foiled detailed butterfly. I'm going to mat a piece of honeycomb foiled background onto some black cardstock and then put that on an A2 piece of white cardstock. I decided the butterfly was getting lost on its own, so I cut out a shadow die of that butterfly in black cardstock, and I'm going to pop that up on some black foam squares. So once that's done, I can add the sentiment strip, which just says, wishing you all the luck, and I'm going to place that end to end on the black mat at the bottom of this card. Again, a really simple card to put together, but it has a big wow impact because of that large foiled butterfly. And I think the pops of black really help the foiling stand out. And I added some gold pearls as embellishments. For this next card, it's going to be very simple. I just cut that panel down, which had the burlap stamping and then the foiled butterfly, to 4 by 5 1/4. And then I'm cutting down a sentiment strip. It's again one of the black sentiment strips with white heat embossing. It just says to a very special person, and I just popped that up on top. Super, super simple, but has a gorgeous effect. Okay, for some birthday cards now, I'm going to stamp the happy in some neon pink ink from Hero Arts at the bottom of that cardstock because that's the only one that doesn't have a die. Those small words don't have dies. The other words, check out that font. I love that three-dimensional looking yay. That is just so cool that you can get that with a stamp. And then a couple of stars, confettis, and things like that. So everything else except for that happy did have a die. I'm just going to cut the happy into a sentiment strip. I did stamp 2 candles, and I'm going to add a little bit of color to the flames. I didn't want to leave them white for some reason. I added a little bit of squeezed lemonade with a small blender brush, and then added a little bit of carved pumpkin to the very center of the candle just to add a little color to those flames. And then you can die cut these out. There is a candle die, so I hold that in place with pixie tape and then cut those out. I'm going to swipe some Hero Hues reactive ink in taffy on my glass mat, spray it with some water, and then roll a paintbrush around in that. And I'm just going to add some splatters to this background. Now this is the Burlap cling mounted stamp that we stamped and heat embossed with gold glitter cardstock. And because it's a birthday card, I did want to just add a little bit more color to this background as well. So a little bit of splatters with a nice bright pink like this is perfect. Exactly what I was looking for. I cut that down to 4 by 5 1/4 so I can mat it on some yellow cardstock. And now I'm just using bits of foam tape to pop everything up. I'm going to start at the bottom and work my way up. So I'm starting with the birthday word, which is die cut. I love these dies cut out those words. I think they look so great. And the candles are going to get popped up as well. So just a few little bits of foam tape on the yay. And then I realized they weren't sitting nice because I wanted them over the candles, like the candles were coming out of the top of the letters. So I added another layer of foam tape to that yay so it pops up even more and then it doesn't bend on the sides. So that was just how I dealt with that because I wanted those candles to look like they were coming out of that word. And then the last little confetti piece got glued down with some liquid glue, so there's lots of different dimensions and layers there. For this birthday card, I'm going to stamp in black ink, and I stamped in an alcohol-friendly ink so that I could color in the cake, but I also stamped the same ink for the hooray, and we'll we'll just die cut that out once it's dry. For the cake, I wanted it to create a rainbow, just like the rainbow background that you can see with the honeycomb. So there was a couple of spots that I missed foiling on that one. So I'm going to use the image and the sentiments and things like that to cover up any spots that I missed foiling, because I just don't want to throw out a rainbow foiled honeycomb. That is just a tragedy. So I'm going to stamp a few little bits of confetti. There's this small stamp that doesn't come with a die, but you can fit in kind of around whatever you're working with, and you can use it to create a background as well by multicolor stamping it. So that's what I did around that honeycomb. I did cut the cake and the hooray out of white fun foam so that I could have an easy way to pop these up, because I was tired of messing around with little bits of foam tape. So I'm going to pop up the birthday cake and then pop up the hooray by adding some liquid adhesive behind that fun foam, and the hip was able to just use a piece of foam tape because it's rectangular. I added one more little bit of confetti in the upper right corner because the lower left corner was so bright. I wanted one more bright on the card. This release was so much fun. I could not stop creating, but I'd love to hear if you saw something that caught your eye today. Let me know in the comments below. YouTube thinks you might be interested in checking out this video next. As always, I want to thank you so much for stopping by and spending time with me today. Please stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll see you again soon.